Welcome to No Room for Phonies.
Episode 166.
Today we're going to get into the tiny habits, and we're basing a lot of it on a book by Fogg
Called Tiny Habits.
But I just thought, end of August coming, school coming, sometimes it's a good time to start something new. So today we're just talking about tiny habits, specifically why making a change in our lives can be so damn difficult.
That's for sure. We'll start with 10 practical ways that habits can make change easier. Less overwhelm, less procrastination, less dependence on willpower, and more momentum. Then we'll dig into Fogg's Tiny Habits book, because he takes that basic idea and gives us a very interesting framework for understanding how behavior actually changes.
So let's start small. These ones are not from his book. They're just things that I read about. Sorry, I'm just turning my phone so it doesn't.
My phone's upstairs charging. So.
These ones are just ones that I read about. So the tactics to add tiny habits to your life is that you eliminate willpower dependency, because micro habits are exceptionally easy. You can execute them even when your energy or your motivation levels are low.
And they're also easier to become automatic
in
your system. Second is building momentum. So success breeds success. Consistently checking off small daily wins builds self-trust and naturally creates momentum for tackling larger goals. And your brain believes that you're making the changes.
Yeah, and then you overcome procrastination by breaking intimidating projects down into these incredibly small first steps, like writing just one page. It just eliminates that mental block that causes you to delay.
It reduces decision fatigue by anchoring small or automated actions to existing daily routines. You save mental energy for more complex cognitive tasks.
And you create compounding results. While the daily impact of a tiny habit, like a 10-minute walk or drinking a glass of water, feels minor, the actions compound over time and lead to a massive long-term transformation.
Micro habits lower stress and overwhelm. So approaching self-improvement via micro steps prevents burnout and allows you to establish healthier boundaries without feeling overwhelmed.
So it also forms neural pathways. So consistently repeating small actions helps establish little neural pathways that make the behavior automatic, requiring less, like you don't have to think about it over time, because that's what a habit is about.
And contrary to research in the 20th century, so in the 1950s to 2000s, where they thought the brain kind of stopped at 30 years old and that was it. Now research shows that right till death, humans can change their brains and brain matter and form new neural pathways.
It also enhances focus. Micro habits like a 1-minute breathing exercise or a 5-minute workspace declutter allow you to reset your mind, directly improving your daily productivity and concentration.
Micro habits improve physical health. Tiny daily acts such as taking a 10-minute movement break or standing by a window for natural light exposure in the morning significantly boost your energy, stabilize blood sugar, and regulate your sleep cycle.
So boosting, and they also boost mood and positivity. So cultivating small routine habits like writing down one thing you are grateful for or celebrating your daily micro wins just makes you more resilient and positive. So those are 10 ways that make our habits that they can help us. But Fogg takes this idea to a whole new level, because he asks us to stop thinking about behavior change as a question of how motivated or disciplined we are, and start looking at how the behavior itself is designed.
And that brings us to his behavior model, which is the acronym is MAP. M for motivation, A for ability, and P for prompts.
And once you understand those three pieces, you have a pretty useful way of figuring out why a habit isn't happening and what you can change to make it easier. So now we're just going to delve into this books worth reading, this tiny habits. Tiny is mighty when it comes to change. Do not set unreal expectations. Stop judging yourself. Take aspirations and break them down into tiny behaviors. We change best by feeling good, not bad. Educating people doesn't change them, and disrupt unwanted habits. So those are his kind of main thrusts.
Yeah, and they push against some like common things that like society has pushed, or governments or organizations. For example, the education. Let's change the world by educating people, or let's change this problem in society by educating. And the educating is important. We need to develop the awareness, but education alone doesn't change things. The behaviors need to actually change. So what you want to do in his model is you want to anchor a moment that reminds you to do the tiny new habit. So if you wash your hands, after you dry your hands on the hand towel, you walk out of the room into your bedroom, wherever closest floor there is, and do 2 push-ups, for example.
Or another example is if you're highly anxious, brush your teeth, take 3 slow, deep breaths, or do 4 square breaths or something, but do it with the anchor of the brushing your teeth. So you find the anchor, you choose the behavior, you do the behavior, and then you go, yeehaw, I did that.
And he has 100 different ways to celebrate your success. If saying yeehaw doesn't really ring true to you, there's other ways. Simply smiling and thinking a thought inside of, yes, I did it, or whatever, are other ways.
So the Fogg behavior model, behavior equals motivation, ability, prompt. That's the map. Converging, all of these converge at the same moment. So, and then you kind of have to troubleshoot. So is there a prompt to do the behavior? Does the person have the ability to do the behavior? Is the person motivated to do the behavior? So those are the things you have to answer in order to do the map.
So for example, if I wanted to go for a 30-minute walk every day, or almost every day, is there a prompt to do the behavior? So do I see my tennis shoes by the door when I come down the stairs? That would be a prompt. Do I have the ability to do the behavior? Yes, I'm physically able. I have clothing that I can wear for summer to stay cool or winter to stay warm. There's really nothing impeding my ability to walk for 30 minutes. And then motivation, how motivated am I to do the behavior?
Is it something that I want to do?
And motivation is often the tricky one, because that's where we fall back on willpower.
It's the monkey that tricks us into setting unreasonable goals. So because motivation is unreliable.
Some mornings I don't want to.
So beware of the motivation spikes or waves, because they are scattershot and they're unreliable. So, and your motivation fluctuates throughout the day, and motivating toward an abstraction doesn't yield any results. And motivation is not the winning ticket for long-term change, because of all the reasons I just stated. So some of the steps in moving forward is, the first thing is you kind of have to clarify your aspiration, your bigger picture.
For example, I want to have better health and movement and cardio. So one behavior option is the 30-minute walk, for example. But I could explore many other. And he
shows in the book, like, how do you explore a whole bunch of behavior options. And
he basically says you have to at least come up with 10. So if you come up with 5, then what you have to do is look at one of those 5 and split it into 2 smaller behaviors that would equal the larger one.
And he talks about magic wanding it. In fact, like just going wild.
Yeah.
And thinking of all kinds of crazy things. And then you match yourself with the specific behavior to create a focus map.
Yeah.
Like you look at it and go, okay, that appeals to me, and that appeals to me.
And I can do it.
And I can do that. So tiny habits help people do what they already want to do. So that's one of the keys to it, I think. Don't pick these things that are like completely unreasonable. Like, I want to run a marathon. You might maybe aspire to that at some point, but
But you
that's
have
not
to have
where.
quite a few smaller habits to
Yeah,
get up to that
yeah.
point.
So plant the seeds and let them grow and make life as simple as possible. And incremental progress then leads to that substantial success. So his thing is small and steady. And he says it over and over again. Start tiny. Make the behavior so tiny that you don't even need that much motivation, and then design for consistency, because success does build success. And that's how I always taught kids.
Mm-hmm.
And skill, muscle strength, and flexibility. So,
and to go back to my example, so if I don't have the motivation to go for a 30-minute walk, what he suggests then is wash my hands, dry them. Come down the stairs, see the shoes there, put them on, and then that's it.
That's all.
That's as much as I can. That's the expectation. So do that several days in a row, and probably some of those days I'll just say, well, my shoes are on, I'm going to go walk, and that's great. But the expectation is all I do is put the shoes on, and then if I don't go, that's fine, take the shoes off. But every day you walk down, and then at night, obviously, you have to leave the shoes at the bottom of the stairs so that they're there.
Yeah, it's just
as a prompt.
Very, 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 very tiny, like ridiculously tiny.
Like smaller than I can ever believe.
Yeah.
And he has lots of amazing stories of transformation
he
of
does.
people.
I was trying to think of like the place where she always left the counter
with crumbs on it.
Mm-hmm. So she started out, and her husband, it upset
crazy.
him.
Yeah.
And so she started by just like getting out the cloth and leaving it there. And then the next thing, she was wiping the counter. Anyway, it all takes time, but there's more success. And then you have to look at your ability chain. So the ability chain includes, like, do I have enough time? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough physical effort, mental effort, and routine? So all those things you have to.
So those are 5 links in a chain. And if one of those links doesn't work, then you don't have the ability.
Yeah. So, and you have to really look at something and say, what is making this behavior hard to do? And how do you make the behavior easier to do? You kind of increase your skills, you get some tools and resources, and then you make the behavior even tinier. You're like, there was one about redoing your fridge, like you want to eat healthier.
Mm-hmm.
So the resource was that on Sundays, they got all these cool containers and they cut up vegetables, and they were all in these containers, so that when they went to the fridge and they were hungry, they ate vegetables because they were ready.
They snacked on them and they were ready.
Yeah. So simplicity changes behavior. Start small, wire the habit, and then just let it grow, and just stop yourself from feeling overwhelmed. Like, just say, no, I can, like, I'm motivated. I can do that. I make it so small that you can do it.
Mm-hmm. And prompts are the invisible driver of our lives, and we have lots of prompts that we just kind of habitually do. So you just kind of need to slow down and think, what is it that I just do naturally? And then that thing will become the prompt.
So then your next thing is to find a good prompt to help yourself do what you already want to do. So,
and there's 3 kinds of prompts.
But he says, do one important thing every day. Like, you don't have to have a list of 25 important things. Choose one thing and do it every day. And there's the person prompt. So that's a little bit less reliable because it's a person.
You're like, the person would remind you, or you see them and you think, oh yeah, let's do this, or
so
something
that's
like
a little bit. And then there's the context prompt, like,
which is the shoes by the door and things like that.
And then there's an action prompt, the anchor behavior, and then the sequence behavior. And then he talks about meanwhile habits. So while I'm waiting for the oven to heat up, I might check, do something.
Right.
Like,
while I'm loading the dishwasher, I might do breathing exercises.
And I do a lot of meanwhile things because When I'm cleaning the
And
house,
it's
I'm
not
listening.
it is multitasking, but it's not heavy duty multitasking.
No, I'm listening to something or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he talks about pearl habits. What I really like this. It's about turning irritants into something beautiful. So you actually think about how you can think about something else that kind of erases the bad thing that's
That's
thing that's
irritating you?
irritating you.
Okay.
So someone's clicking a pen and you start picturing
if
an
clicking pens
ocean.
annoys
If
you,
clicking pens
'cause,
annoys you.
some people like the clicking
Yeah.
pens.
So anyway, and then the next part of it is to celebrate your success or your victory.
And what often happens with trying to change your habits is you fail and you beat yourself up, and there's a lot of shame and voices in your head about, oh, here you go again. You broke that. You don't have any willpower. You're a weakling. So celebrating is what really makes a big difference.
So because emotions are what creates habits, so decisions require deliberation and habits do not. So we can intentionally create feelings to wire in the habits that we actually want in our lives. And so celebration is the best way to build habits.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually have to practice it to get comfortable with it.
It's a skill to have. Celebrating is a skill because we default to the negative.
So in the beginning, they say he actually talks about rehearsing the behavior sequence, like you think you actually go through it in your head.
In your mind.
And do that like 7 to 10 times and celebrate 3 times, like before the behavior, during the behavior, after the behavior. So you think about the anchor, the behavior, and the celebration. Like think about that, like actually visualize that.
Yourself doing that.
And then negative emotions do shrivel the roots of automaticity. So if you're feeling those negative emotions, you're actually stalling the automaticity of the habit.
That's why the celebration is important. And celebration is the bridge from tiny habits to big changes.
And it's a lifeline, like gratitude and mindfulness. Repattern your life with celebration.
And this isn't the phony.
No, his ways of celebrating, like there's tons of them, and you really if you're really interested in this, you should get the book.
Yeah, for sure.
So then he talks about the skills of change, which these were very cool to me. This behavior crafting is one of them.
It's actually a skill.
And adjust the habits you want in your life. Focus on what interests you. Embrace variety. Stay flexible. Be optimistic, and see forward movement.
And self-insight is another skill of change where you clarify your aspirations or desired outcomes and you understand what motivates you and what habits have meaning for you. You find the smallest, easiest change you can make that will have the biggest meaning to you. And you just ask yourself, is the habit worth pursuing?
And then the third part of the skill of change is to adjust to the dynamic nature of life. You are constantly troubleshooting and rehearsing your habits and revising your approach and figuring out when to ramp it up.
Yeah.
So, and he goes into a lot of detail about this.
Mm-hmm.
After the celebration, you kind of troubleshoot. Don't put pressure on yourself to do more than the tiniest version of your habit, and don't restrict yourself from going bigger. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you do too much, make sure you celebrate extra hard and use emotional flags to help you find your edge. Mm-hmm. If you're starting to feel overwhelmed, then
you're arriving at
too
your
much.
Edge. Yeah. So celebrate where you've got to, and then that's good. The context is what surrounds you, so it's your environment. So sometimes it's necessary to redesign your environment to make the habit easier and to reduce the friction of the motivation. So you want to question tradition, like I've always done it this way, or we've always done it that way, or this is how my family did it. That is something that maybe you need to change in your environment, and definitely invest in the gear you need.
And then as part of the change mindset is a whole part of it as well. Mm-hmm. Your approach and your attitude to change as well as your approach and your attitude, as well as your perception and interpretation of the world around you. Openness, flexibility, curiosity, being able to lower your expectations, feeling good about your success, celebrating, being patient and trusting kind of the process. If you're wrapped up in so much like being hard on yourself and anxiety or fear, it's really hard to get back to get there. So, and learn the skills. Last time we talked about identity signaling.
Yeah.
So learn the skills of embracing a new identity. Out with the old, in with the new. I'm the kind of person who can change. I can embrace a new identity. I can let go of things that you think are bad. I can successfully embrace an identity shift in one area, and then that will
Promote change.
change in another area.
For example, you can learn from skills you've already mastered. So how have you learned things in the past? Just remember back what it was and realize, I have that.
Learn new things.
Yeah, I have that, that ability to practice or whatever.
Practice one of the behavior crafting skills.
Think of redesigning your environment and practice redesigning your environment.
Rehearse your new habits and celebrate even the rehearsal. The process. Practice a mindset skill. Be okay with the tiny behaviors. And practice a self-insight skill. How do you want to be in the world? How do you want to be at work? What's the small thing you can do that would be significant in that area?
And next, he covers the whole thing about bad habits and breaking bad habits or replacing bad habits with good ones. And so he divides bad habits into two categories. There's uphill habits, which require ongoing attention to maintain, but are easy to maintain and difficult to stop. And then there's free fall bad habits, which are difficult to stop without a safety net or professional help. So, if you're an alcoholic, you do need to go to a 12-step program. It's not something that's a free fall habit. Uphill habits, like eating potato chips,
scrolling on your phone.
Those are you have to pay attention to them to maintain them, but they're easy to maintain. And actually, he doesn't really talk about breaking bad habits.
He talks about untangling them. So you see how the tangles are connected. You are not suffering from weakness of character, which is a thing.
A big shame thing.
You can design for the change you want. So, there's he has the 3 phases. You create a behavior change plan using all the other things he has. You focus
you focus on creating new habits, and then third, you focus on swapping out a new habit for an old one.
And then he does refer to accountability partners. And
it's interesting in the other book I'm reading, he goes into social contagion, where you have 5 people around you, your 5 closest people. He says it's actually bigger than 5. But you want to check your social contagion. Are you with people? That's part of designing your environment. Are you with people that make you do the bad habit or encourage it or model it?
So create new habits that build on your strengths. Crowd out behaviors you don't want. Stop a habit by decreasing motivation. So remove the prompt. What is the general habit you want to stop? And what specific habits contribute? So you remove the prompt, you avoid the prompt, you ignore the prompt. And sometimes you have to redesign your ability in order to stop a habit. So you focus on making a habit harder to do.
So if you don't want unhealthy snacks in the home, you don't buy them at the grocery store. And that way it'll take too long to get in the car, go out to a corner store and buy some. Increase the money required.
Increase the physical effort required. Remove your office chair.
So that you stand more day. Have one TV in the house and even hide it away.
Increase the mental effort required. So track calories, change to longer passwords.
When you're getting in your phone. And make the habit conflict with important routines.
So adjust motivation in order to stop a habit. Change your phone screen to grayscale. Add a demotivator to stop a habit, not a guilt trip or a feeling bad. Scaling back the change. So set a shorter time period for stopping the bad habit. I'm not going to scroll on my phone for 3 days instead of I'm not going to scroll on my phone
forever.
Mm-hmm. Do an unwanted habit for a shorter duration. Do fewer instances of the unwanted habit. Do the unwanted habit with less intensity. So you don't have to make it ride or die kind of
and
a
cold
thing.
turkey, quitting cold turkey.
Yeah.
And then it's important to design a swapping behavior. So be specific and swap it with something else. So remap prompts to swap a habit, new habit instead of old. So for example, when I get the munchies and I want to eat chips, instead I'll go to the fridge and grab a handful of vegetables.
Or nut.
Or I go to the cupboard and eat almonds.
Avoid enablers. We shape our families, communities, and society through our actions. Help people feel successful. Help people do what they already want to do. Change leads to change. And be mindful of your influence on others while using the best possible methods to help them. And so I just thought I would list the whole, the steps in behavior design that he's kind of gone through in the book. So number 1 is to clarify the aspiration. Number 2 is to explore the behavior options. Number 3 is to match the specific behaviors. Number 4 is to start tiny. Number 5 is to find a good prompt. 6 is to celebrate success. And 7 is to troubleshoot, iterate, and expand. And then he talks about the feedback power zone. The person has to care about the feedback, and they are uncertain. So strengthen others in your interactions. So just don't randomly start giving people feedback.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is, I mean, he does go into a whole section about doing this with families or with work teams and things like that.
Yeah.
So it takes it beyond just the individual and makes it bigger.
And then he kind of gives this, and this is kind of about group. So troubleshoot and iterate together. What we do is all about design and redesign. You can solve whatever challenge you face. Any change is possible. Habits may be the smallest units of transformation, but they're also the most fundamental.
And I would say attitudes and feelings come along for the ride after the transformation.
And I mean, one of the hardest things I think it is to do, especially in public sector environments, is to actually cultivate a culture of change.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get as small as what he's saying, I think it would be more possible.
I think so.
Create a family tradition of positive change. Do what you already do and feel successful. So I think the takeaway here is pretty simple. We don't always need to try harder. We need to make things easier.
Yeah. Start tiny, find the right prompt, make the behavior doable, and when you succeed, celebrate it. Because change doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful.
Sometimes the smallest behavior is the one that finally gets us moving. So that is Tiny Habits, and I think this is one of the most life-changing approaches that I've read, and I've read a lot.
You have more than I, but we've read a lot of books about habits, and I mean, some other good ones out there are Atomic Habits, which is also again about the small habit, and Slow Habits. But I really find that this is
very
so usable, and I'm already starting to do some different micro or tiny habits already.
So on August 30th, we're going to look at another book worth reading, and I think it's important, kind of in perspective to this tiny habit things and how he talks about emotions. The book is called Dealing with Feeling, and it's harnessing your emotions to create the life you want, and it's by Mark Brackett. So we're going to get into some feelings. So thanks for joining us today for No Room for Phonies, Tiny Habits, and we'll see you next time. Oh, I want to just add, please take time to subscribe to our Substack.
Oh yeah, we have moved the blog and the podcast to Substack. So we hope you can subscribe there. It's free. You don't have to pledge anything, but and also if you find this episode useful, please share it with friends.
Thanks for joining us on No Room for Phonies.
Goodbye.